Welcome back to the Hannahcast YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be predicting the Oscars again. My December predictions are being updated, except this time it's going to be the below-the-line categories, animated feature, international feature, and finally documentary feature, because now that we have the short lists, and now we know what's actually in the running, because for me, documentary is maybe one of the hardest categories to predict. But first, actually, I do want to let you guys know that memberships are still open. We got a lot of cool videos out yesterday, or maybe like the day before yesterday, technically, I think. I don't know. I posted a video for members where I looked up the tally numbers for what was going on in the regional critics circle awards, and I came to some pretty interesting realizations that have affected my predictions in some ways and some not in others. Thank you guys for becoming members. We have 12 members, and if we can get even more, that would be really awesome. So yeah, consider becoming a member. It really means a lot. There's so much cool stuff, emojis, badges, a lot of other fun things, and more fun things to come. Now, let's start with cinematography. I am predicting Dune Part 2 not to completely underperform, but in some ways underperforming. And I'm actually maybe thinking, despite the fact that it doesn't make sense to me, because Dune has better cinematography than the first film, I think it might miss here. I think it might miss because overall it might just be considered weaker than the first film, or like it's more like been there, done that and stuff, sort of like Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, which I hear a lot of people bringing that up, but I don't know if it's going to be exactly the same, because, like, I have to assume, you know, Dune's going to get nominated for adapted screenplay, right? Right? So what's the winner? Well, currently the two films that are front-running in the critic circles, again, the critic circles don't really mean it. Actually, wait, no, what am I saying? There's one film that's the front-runner for cinematography, the one, or at the very least, like the one that's been taking the most critic circle wins, is, funny enough, Nosferatu. Like, Nosferatu is winning with 9 wins. Nosferatu has 9 wins. And for comparison, The Brutalist and Nickel Boys are both at number 2 with 6. Now, that's very fascinating, but I still don't know about this. I don't know, because like Nosferatu, I haven't seen it yet. I'm not really able to see any movies right now. But however, it somehow just feels too good to be true for this film to be nominated, because The Substance, that's a horror movie getting into Best Picture, and it's having trouble getting into the craft categories. Like, it didn't even get shortlisted for sound or score. So it's like, what does it say about Nosferatu? And I don't know. And also the fact that the reviews are kind of going down. Like, the movie started off with, like, pretty, like mid-90s reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, and now it's down to, like, the high 80s. So that's, like, the fact that more and more people are seeing it and are not liking it as much, it's like, I don't know. I don't know. Again, we'll have to see. It's not, obviously it's not over, but I really need to see what's going on. Like, if it gets BAFTA, British Cinematographers, and ASC, if it gets all 3 of those, then alright, maybe I might predict a nomination. But again, we'll have to see. And so I'm kind of torn between Nickel Boys and The Brutalist, because on one hand, The Brutalist just sounds like more of a traditional cinematography winner when you look at the history of cinematography nominees. But if there's any film that has a narrative with its cinematography, it could be Nickel Boys, which again is I feel like in a way getting the nomination is going to be harder than getting the win, because I'm wondering if the cinematographer's branch could just say, well, I mean, there's a narrative behind the cinematography and how you're in the first-person perspective, but we like the more like artiste kind of cinematography. So I don't know. Like, it may right now I will say yes, because I feel like they'll probably want, if there's anything that's going to be snubbable, it would be Nosferatu and Dune Part 2, because of how weak Dune Part 2 is and how much of a genre bias the Oscars have against horror movies. So right now, I will probably say Nickel Boys is winning, because if it gets nominated, then it could literally be like how The Zone of Interest won Best Sound last year, where that was like the sound, like like the only precursor it won was BAFTA, and really it's like, well, you could probably say, well, the BAFTAs, that they just like the British movie, but ultimately the narrative about the film, like the fact that the sound never leaves your ears and is always lingering in you, that narrative really caught on to voters, and and that's what got it the win. And I'm wondering if the same thing could be in for Nickel Boys with its cinematography. Like the narrative behind the cinematography, it could probably lead it to a win, but we need to see it be nominated first. We'll have to see that. Because if the Nickel Boys doesn't get nominated, well then it's going to be The Brutalist. It's going to be The Brutalist that wins. Then we have Maria, obviously, because Edward Lockman. Now, I have seen Maria. It's like, yeah, the cinematography is really good. Like, the way the movie, like, has its, like, greens and reds together. Oh, my God. It's beautiful. The Girl with the Needle. Again, I'm kind of going with that, you know, black and white, international, film. So I'm kind of looking out for that one. And I'm still putting in a complete unknown at number 5. Because, again, this is the thing I've always been saying. The cinematographer for this movie is the same person that did the cinematography for Trial of the Chicago 7, which some people might try to say, well, that was a movie that had, you know, that where there was like that year had no competition, you know, but it's like, no, there was competition. But the thing is, before I get to the competition, like, no critics group, not one single critics group nominated Trial of the Chicago 7. And yet, guess who did? ASC, American Society of Cinematographers. They nominated Trial of the Chicago 7 when no one else did. They did, like, they went out of their way to nominate it. That makes me think something's up, that they like this cinematographer. All right? Because they had options. They had Tenet, they had I'm Thinking of Ending Things, they had The Five Bloods, they had First Cow, they had plenty of options. And yet they chose to go with Trial of all films. I just think they like this cinematographer. And the fact that a complete unknown is dealing with, spotlights and stages, and though cinematography is supposedly more showy, I'm just like, well, yeah, I think he's going to get in then. I think a complete unknown is going to get in for cinematography. I'm just saying, watch out. If ASC nominates this, it might be over. It might be over. And anyways, I've already talked about Nosferatu and Dune Part 2. Grand Tour, it's underperforming a little. Like, I don't know. If it got ASC, definitely. But it seems to be kind of underperforming. I mean, it wasn't even chosen for the international shortlist. Although then again, you know, El Conde wasn't even, submitted by its country. But, again, there's a few other things you could go around that. So, I'm keeping my eye on Grand Tour if it gets ASC, but if it doesn't, it's over. Amelia Perez, a lot of people are predicting this, but it's like, I still don't buy it. I mean, yeah, sure, like, the El Mal scene had some pretty cool cinematography, but other than that, like, the movie doesn't really have anything else going for it. So I'm just like, I just don't buy it. I just do not buy it. I don't even think ASC would do it, because ASC goes for the more artful stuff. And there's nothing really arty about Amelia Perez's cinematography other than the El Mal scene. Conclave, I am really wondering if that could get into ASC, because currently I think it has Critics' Choice. It will probably get BAFTA. And it really, then I also want to look at British Society of Cinematographers and see what happens there. Was it? Wicked, I mean, yeah, sure, it got nominated at Critics' Choice, but I don't care. It's not going to happen. People are saying, oh, it might win. It's like, no, it's not. It's not. Now, granted, it's weird because, like, I have mixed feelings on the cinematography. It's like, yeah, it's not very vibrant and colorful, but at the same time, the camera moves are very, very good. But I'm already expecting Wicked to fall off like a little bit during award season. Obviously, it's going to get into Best Picture. It's going to get a few categories, but I don't think it's going to be the awards juggernaut that a lot of people think it's going to be, especially Gold Derby, which for some reason, Gold Derby, the experts, have Wicked winning Best Picture without even getting nominated for director or screenplay. That's ridiculous to me. It's like, there have only been 2 films to ever do that, like winning Best Picture without director or screenplay. One is Grand Hotel, the other is Wings, which was the very first Best Picture winner ever. So, no, don't bet on that. Do not bet on that. Joker Folie à Deux, I'm still keeping in the cinematography conversation because it did make the Oscar shortlist for sound. And I'm like, because in some ways, the shortlist can show some strength. Obviously, there are times where a movie will make multiple shortlists and won't get nominated for anything. Like, for example, Jingle Jangle: A Christmas Journey. But again, it can spell some interesting tale, like, or it can spin some interesting presence at the Oscars in a way. I don't know. I mean, sort of like how The Creator made it in for visual effects and sound on the shortlist, and it got nominated for both of them. So I do want to keep my eye on it, like on Joker, see if it gets anything else. If it doesn't get ASC or like, then it's over. But we'll have to see. The Substance. Again, I don't think it's happening, especially not without sound. But I'm just just keeping my eye on it somewhere. All right. Then we get to film editing, and honestly, I have no idea what to do here, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. This is very, very hard to figure out, because on one hand, The Substance did not make sound or score on the shortlist. Oopsies. But at the same time, I don't really have a good argument for anything else, because the only two films that could theoretically win sound and editing that I think would be most likely would be Dune or Emilia Perez. And Dune, I mean, I could see it winning sound, but the fact that it's not even, getting, not like the fact that it's like probably going to underperform compared to the first film. It's like, will this win film editing? And so I am kind of going with the idea that maybe Dune is going to win sound and visual effects, which is like what Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers won. Which again, I don't want to keep making that comparison because obviously movies are not the same, but it's the best I got right now. Because if The Substance did get on the sound shortlist, well then easily it would have the film editing and sound combo. But right now, I'm wondering if I do have to predict a split, because ever since traditionally you want to go with the sound editing, the sound and editing combo. Like, it's been very useful in the past, and even when they combined the categories for the first couple years, it's like, all right, it seems like that stat is still strong. Sound of Metal was getting editing when it wasn't supposed to, and Dune, despite its sweeping sound, like the only precursor for editing it won. Well, actually, no, it didn't win any precursors. It just won the Oscar, because West Side Story won editing at the Critics' Choice Awards, but that didn't get the Oscar nomination. The BAFTAs gave it to No Time to Die, but that didn't get nominated at the Oscars. And the Eddies gave it to King Richard, which, okay, that made it to the Oscars, but it's also like, but that wasn't in sound. But Dune won sound and editing. But then after that, it's like, yeah, like the Oscars just didn't really do that. Because, like, you have Everything Everywhere All at Once the next year winning film editing and Top Gun Maverick winning sound. But it's like, okay, maybe I can see where those two would split. But then last year, Oppenheimer was thought to be taking both sound and editing. But yet it only won editing and sound went to the Zone of Interest. So I'm just kind of like, is this sound and editing stat breaking? Are the cracks starting to show? Because again, I don't know it's if there's going to be a combo, it would have to be either Dune or Emilia Perez, but that would be very strange because Dune's showing weakness and Emilia Perez winning editing and sound. Like, I'd be hard pressed to say that might not, like, that would maybe win Best Picture if it's that strong. So I don't know. So I'm going with The Substance because it still is probably the most editing of the year. So it is really tough. And maybe if there weren't a shortlist, maybe The Substance would get in. I don't know. Conclave, I think, is a very, safe pick for, the nomination for film editing. And then that fifth slot, which, admittedly, I have no idea what to do. Because because the Eddie nominations did come out. But so many of so many contenders just didn't get nominated at the Eddies. Sing Sing didn't get in at the Eddies for drama. September 5 didn't get in the Eddies for drama. The Brutalist didn't get in for drama. And what did we get? We got Furiosa and Civil War. Which, to be quite honest, I don't think that's happening. I don't really think... Well, Furiosa's definitely not happening. I mean, maybe I should have it in here somewhere, but the fact that it didn't make a single Oscar shortlist is, like, really sad. And Civil War, I mean, granted, it also got the visual effects shortlist, but if it got the... I don't know, maybe if it showed up on the sound shortlist, I'd be like, whoa. Like, because that would mean it's strong potentially in visual effects, sound, and editing. And now I'd be like, oh, dang, maybe? So I feel like they're like, and I don't know what to do. I don't think Anora's going to win film editing, because even watching the movie, it's like, it's not really like an editing kind of film. Wicked, maybe, but I don't know. I kind of feel like, even though Wicked, I guess makes sense for an editing nomination, again, it's just slowly kind of tapering off. We're starting to slowly see it shows some weakness in award season. And again, I just feel like it's going to be Barbie 2.0. And so that's weird. And you have challengers, which that did get in at the Eddies, but at the same time, it's not in Best Picture. Can I do that? Can I really do that? And I don't know if I really can. Because, like, okay, sure, Tick, Tick, Boom got editing, and that wasn't in Best Picture, but it also won the Eddie for comedy. And I'm thinking The Substance would probably win the Eddie for comedy. So this is hard to figure out. So I'm kind of stuck with 3 films that are not in Best Picture that I kind of have to choose from. Not only 3 films that, no, 3 films that, oh wait, no. Well, no, one of my, no, I think I screwed that one up. 3 films that did not get in at the Eddies, yet I feel like would be stronger contenders. So let's go over them. All right. The Brutalist, again, makes sense. And it is like a big, like 3.5 hour long epic. And, you know, as long as those are paced well, those could probably get in. September 5, I was considering putting it in, but the problem with that is that, how do I describe it? It's like, if I were to put it in film editing for a film that's really trying to get into Best Picture, then it's looking pretty damn close for that nomination. And if it were, but again, it's really the fact that the fact that this film might not get Best Picture and yet didn't make the Eddie, it's like, that's concerning to me. And then we have Sing Sing, which again, some people might say, well, maybe that's not in Best Picture. Again, I do want to reference what's happened with the shortlists. The fact that Sing Sing got into Best Original Score and Best Original Song, despite the fact that there were a few contenders potentially stronger than it. Like, again, let's look at the score shortlist, all right? Sure, there are 20 films in that shortlist, but guess what did not make the 20 film shortlist for song? No, score. I keep mixing those two up. The Substance and Nickel Boys. 2 films that were supposed to be stronger than Sing Sing, and yet they missed score. And I was like, that's weird. How did Sing Sing beat those 2? And it's not like September 5 got into score. I mean, granted, I don't know if there was a score in September 5 or not. But if there is, then Sing Sing still got in above it. And also in song, not only did Sing Sing get in, but it got in despite the Miley Cyrus Last Showgirl song not getting in, and despite the fact that song, the Miley Cyrus song, got in at the Globes and Critics' Choice. And yet they chose Like a Bird over it. So it makes me think that maybe voters are finally starting to catch on to Sing Sing, and they're starting to watch it. And so, even though it did not get the Eddie, I don't really have a good argument for a lot of the other films that did get into the Eddies, because Challengers it's definitely not in Best Picture. Wicked, sure, that's in Best Picture, but it's also the kind of film that would drop off from a few categories because of how populist it is. Anora just doesn't feel like an editing film. It's honestly very straightforward with its editing, not really all that showy. Whereas Sing Sing does have like some very strong what's the word I'm looking for? Montage moments. Civil War, that got in at the Eddies, but that's definitely not getting Best Picture. And so I'm just kind of stuck. I'm just like, I have to go with Sing Sing, and also a complete unknown would maybe make sense, but again, no Eddie nomination. But then again, did they see that movie? I don't know. But ultimately, I cannot predict more than one film. Like, already Sing Sing is a big gamble because it did not get the Eddie nomination, and I don't want to predict more than one film that did not get the Eddie to get in. But it has happened before. Look at The Father. The Father is an example of a film that didn't get a lot of precursor mentions, but because it came out late, it was able to have that late surge and overperformed in some categories. So maybe that could happen with Sing Sing, because again, those shortlists in song and score really made me think that there is still some strength in Sing Sing, and only now are people actually starting to catch on to it. But that's just my theory. A film theory. But yeah. Production design. Alright. This is really weird, because I thought Wicked was going to be sweeping the critics, just because Barbie, despite the fact that Barbie lost the Oscar, it still swept the critics. It was winning everywhere it could with the critics, practically. And then something weird happened this year. The Brutalist has been winning a lot. All right, let me check the Brutalist has 4 wins. Nosferatu has 3 wins, and both Dune and Wicked have 2 wins. That's very fascinating, isn't it? The critics, which are supposed to be Wicked's best friend, like how they were with Barbie last year, they're going with The Brutalist, which is something I was I feel really duped right now, because, earlier in the year, around fall, I was saying, The Brutalist might win production design. It's about an architect. It was probably some minimalist, but not minimalist because it's brutalist, but it's about an architect. You're probably going to see some impressive sets done on a small budget. And it turns out the critics are going for it. So I'm like, because if the critics aren't going to go with Wicked like they did with Barbie, then what does that say about its Oscar chances? I think it's not looking great. Dune, it's probably just going to be safely in there. And then we have the last 2 slots, which you could play around with. I'll still say Gladiator, although we don't have the Art Directors Guild yet. We don't have the Art Directors Guild, but Gladiator 2 might get in. It just might. I'm kind of curious to see what happens there. And then we have Maria. And the reason why I have Maria in, okay, admittedly right now, it's kind of a free-for-all, who knows what's going to happen. But Maria, for one, the sets look pretty damn good. And they're also very, very big. And the production designer is Guy Hendricks Diaz, and he did the production design for movies like Passengers, which was one of the biggest shocks in production design history in terms of nominations. And that film actually got in. That has the same production designer. And I'm kind of thinking maybe there is a chance that Maria could snag a production design nomination. Admittedly, the only reason why I'm doing this is because I'm trying to keep Beetlejuice out. And for those who don't know, let me remind you why I am looking out for Beetlejuice, and why, if this film gets nominated, it's going to win. It's going to win if it gets nominated. Hear me out. 4 Tim Burton films have been nominated for production design. Batman, Sleepy Hollow, Sweeney Todd, Alice in Wonderland. You want to know how many of them won? All of them. All of them won. You want to know how many of them won off of precursors? Only Sleepy Hollow. The rest of them won nothing before their Oscar win. The BAFTAs loved Batman. The BAFTAs absolutely loved Batman, showering it in so many nominations, including Jack Nicholson in supporting actor, and yet they didn't give it production design. Whereas at the Oscars, Batman won production design off of that being its only nomination. Then you have no, it's not Sleepy Hollow. Then you have Sweeney Todd, which it's almost the exact same scenario. The only nomination it got at the Oscars, Sweeney Todd, the only nomination it got was production design. And everywhere else, like other films were winning. Alright, looking at the precursors, BAFTA gave production design to Atonement. Alright, they gave that film, hell, actually wait, yeah, and the BAFTAs didn't even nominate Sweeney Todd. Alright, and the Art Directors Guild, okay, well, what could win at the Art Directors Guild? But it wasn't Sweeney Todd, and it wasn't Atonement, it was There Will Be Blood. So there were two films contending for that win in production design at the Oscars, Atonement and There Will Be Blood, both of which were in Best Picture, by the way. And yet, Sweeney Todd beat both of them, despite not even getting nominated for the BAFTA, and not winning period film at the Art Directors Guild Awards. So, that, and then there's Alice in Wonderland, alright? Alice in Wonderland. Inception, the Best Picture nominated film, swept everywhere. Critics' Choice, BAFTA, Art Directors Guild for Fantasy Film. Alright, well, surely it's gonna be Inception that wins. No, it's Alice in Wonderland. That beat Inception. Jesus Christ. Tim Burton films are kind of unstoppable in this category, if they get nominated, that is. So much so to where I think the only thing stopping Beetlejuice from getting the win is if it just doesn't get nominated. That's my thing. Like, if it gets nominated, then it's just gonna win. Like, because, like, every stat I could find that would go against, like, a Tim Burton film winning production design, Tim Burton has already broken that stat. It's kind of insane. And so I'm really watching out. I am honest to God keeping my eyes on Beetlejuice, because oh my God. And some people could say, well, I mean, the first film didn't get nominated. I mean, sure, but this also has more production design. We're seeing way more sets. The sets are also bigger. And not only that, even the contemporary sets outside of, like, the Land of the Dead are interesting to look at. Like, there's, like, this art gallery or something in the beginning of the film, and it's a very good set. It's like, oh my God. Like, there's insane production design everywhere. And the thing is, like, people will also say, well, a Tim Burton film hasn't been nominated since Alice in Wonderland, but at the same time, we haven't really had a Tim Burton film like Beetlejuice in a very long time. Like you look at something like Dumbo or Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children or stuff like that. It's like, yeah, those films didn't get nominated for production design, but they were also like, it's almost like the studio was like having like Tim Burton's name on the poster, but didn't allow him to have any kind of creative expression with his designs. But Beetlejuice is like the first film in a very long time where it actually does feel like that. Where, yeah, it actually does feel like a Tim Burton film. And so, God, I mean, because, okay, we know it's going to get the Art Directors Guild for Fantasy Film, alright? That's easy peasy lemon squeezy. However, if it gets BAFTA longlisted, I may have to put it in, and I may have to predict it for the win. But again, I don't know. Maybe it gets nominated anyway, and if it gets nominated, holy shit, you kind of have to reckon with the idea that Beetlejuice could win. And the thing is, again, what did I say before about Wicked? Wicked is already kind of on its way down right now. Because, it's surely not going to get director. Hell, I'm not even predicting it for DGA. Like, even Greta Gerwig got into the Globes, and John M. Chu couldn't do that. And also, unlike Barbie, even if you think Wicked's getting adapted scriptly, even if you think that, it's not a cakewalk for that nomination. Like, I'm not predicting it to get nominated because the Oscars just generally don't nominate stage adaptations of musicals. And it doesn't really matter about, like, oh, do they love the movie that much? It's like, no, they look at, like, the reason why stage musical adaptations don't get nominated is because they're usually too close to the source material. And granted, while this isn't like a West Side Story where it pretty much is beat for beat how all of it went down, this film does expand on that story much more than the stage show. Like, it's like over twice as long as the first show. But from everything I've been hearing, it doesn't really change up the dialogue. Really, it just expands on the scenes. Which, granted, you could also make the argument. Well, was it like it like. The screenplay is not just about the dialogue, it is also about how the story is told, which is something I've always been saying. Like, that's why movies like 1917, The Zone of Interest, and All Quiet on the Western Front, why, despite them not getting much precursor support, they show up at the Oscars for screenplay, because one, it's a branched category, and the writers are probably going to be actually reading the screenplays, but also, even if those films aren't filled with, like, witty dialogue, they still describe what's going on very well in the screenplay. But at the same time, with Wicked, it still is in that box of being very close to the source material, and I feel like it might be too close to that, so inherently, again, it's weaker. So what am I getting at? Well, because I just feel like Wicked is not even going to be as strong as Barbie. I feel like it's still going to be seen as a very, like, commercial film that kind of dips down. Whereas Beetlejuice doesn't really have that kind of baggage ahead of it. Now, neither does The Brutalist, and I am watching out for that. But again, if Beetlejuice gets nominated, I have to predict the film to get nominated. And the thing is, it's already going to at least get one guaranteed nomination for makeup. All right, it's at least going to get a nomination for makeup, and I'm currently predicting a costume design nomination. But even if this film were to only get production design, again, what have I said before? Tim Burton films have already won production design, with only the production design category being its only nomination. But I'm not even predicting that, so Beetlejuice doesn't even have to worry as much as movies like Batman or Sweeney Todd. I'm just saying watch out. Because if Beetlejuice gets nominated, prepare for a storm. Prepare for a storm of the great Tim Burton stat. But anyways, let's move on. Nosferatu, that also is a valid option, and the sets do look amazing, and there's lots of articles about how the production design was done. But again, for a horror movie like this, it doesn't seem like, I don't know if it's going to get into a lot of categories, if any. Because again, the substance is literally in Best Picture, and it's not even getting sound. And granted, that's also a contemporary film, but so it's not going to get stuff like production design or costume design or stuff like that. But the fact that it's not even getting sound is weird. So, Blitz, it didn't make the Costume Guild, which was very concerning, but it did make a couple of Oscar shortlists, like sound and score. I mean, score was probably expected, but sound is like, ooh. So it is. So I'm wondering if it can show some strength. If it gets into the Art Directors Guild, I might actually end up predicting it for production design and maybe sound, because that would end up making sense. Furiosa, I was ready to put it in, but its Oscar shortlist turnout was so bad, it's like, oh, it's done. It's not getting a single nomination. Conclave, in a weird way, might get every precursor. Like, it's gotten Critics' Choice. It's probably going to get BAFTA because it's sort of a British movie. And it's going to get the Art Directors Guild. So it's like, okay, well, it got every precursor, so it's in. It's still contemporary, though. It is still contemporary. So, I'm just kind of like, I don't know. Like, the Oscars just don't really nominate contemporary films that much. So, I don't know if I'm going to do that. And then the Substance, it could probably get Art Directors Guild for, contemporary film, but again, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to predict that. All right? Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, no, I haven't gotten to costume design yet. Okay. Costume design. All right? I could still, okay, Wicked, I could probably predict the win here, because, okay, right now, I am predicting this to be its only Oscar nomination. No, it's only Oscar win. But that's still not, but that can happen. You can win only costume design. Black Panther Wakanda Forever, only one costume design. Cruella, only one costume design. Like, it's not uncommon, So I could see that. Dune, I'm wondering if this could be vulnerable, though. I'm wondering if this is vulnerable, but I don't know yet. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. And also, we did get the Costume Designers Guild, so we do have some reference for this. Gladiator 2, I think it made it into the Costume Guild, so I think that's all right. Maria, again, like that actually did make it. The fact that it made it into the Costume Guild, I'm like, oh, okay, now we're in for something. We're in for something. And the last, and I forgot, there were some big stuff, like the Brutalist didn't get into the Costume Guild for period film, surprisingly, and neither did Blitz, and also neither did Joker. Joker didn't get into the Costume Guild. Like, my God, that movie, like, and you know what did get into period film for costume design? Saturday Night and the Book of Clarence. What? Like, I watched the trailer for the Book of Clarence, and I'm just like, that got a costume nomination at the Costume Guild? What? Like, again, I'm not going to act like I know better than the Costume Guild, so maybe they see something I don't. I'm willing to admit that. But from a normie perspective, I don't see it. It does not look very impressive at all to me. I'm like, what? The Book of Clarence? That got into for costumes. What? So I have to put it in. I have to put it in the list because God knows what happens. Like, I don't think I even put Napoleon in my production design predictions, and yet that got in. Stupid. But, so, I've learned, like, in the fantasy and period categories, put all of those in the list because that could happen. Alright? It could happen. Although, then again, I don't have Borderlands in for costume. I don't have Borderlands in this list. I'm not, okay, that's the one where I'm like, alright, let's be real here. That has no shot of happening. Come on, everyone hates that movie. That would be really, really funny if Borderlands got a costume nomination at the Oscars. That would actually be really, really funny. So what do we have? I think Furiosa got into the Costume Guild, I think. But again, the Oscar shortlist snafu is like, oh, ew. Which is also weird because Joker is the exact opposite problem. It didn't get the Costume Guild nomination, and yet it did get into sound. Which is really Like, I did not think that was happening. So I'm wondering if there's still some life at the Oscars for Joker Folie à Deux, if just for one category. But then again, a lone costume nomination would be kind of weird. Conclave, once again, that movie is contemporary. I'm not gonna, I don't want to risk that. I don't want to risk that. So I guess it is between three films. Is it going to be The Brutalist? Is it going to be Nosferatu? Or is it going to be Beetlejuice? And I don't know. I'll have to see what the BAFTAs do. Wait, did the Critics' Choice Awards nominate Brutalist? Oh, wow. Okay, Brutalist did not make it at the Critics' Choice Awards. So that means it would have to only get BAFTA. And I don't know if that's good enough. Because if the critics aren't going to do it, then maybe the Oscars don't do it. All right? If the critics aren't going to do it. Because sometimes BAFTA will nominate mostly Best Picture films. So, and we already know that Beetlejuice has a confirmed precursor as of now. Oh, and there is also Nosferatu. Nosferatu did get Critics' Choice and Costume Guild. I'm wondering if it'll get BAFTA. If it gets all three of them, man, if it showed, I'm really wondering if Nosferatu performs well at BAFTA. Because if it performs well at BAFTA, I might have to reconsider it in some of these categories. But I'm really wondering if that hype can sustain itself. Beetlejuice, it's kind of had that same hype. Like, no one's really calling it a masterpiece, but at the same time, because it hasn't really had a chance to, like, be, like, so popular where people get turned off of it. It's kind of just had this, like, steady, very, like, you know, oh yeah, that was really good. That was a really fun movie. Like, it hasn't really reached that plateau, or like, it hasn't reached so high to where there's that sudden, like, populist backlash. It's like, people are just, I guess, the best way I can describe it is, like, you know, the expectations were never really that high, and or at the very least, like, it met pretty good, it met pretty good expectations, and it's kind of been controversy free. I mean, and what I mean by controversy, I mean, you know, no one's calling it, like, the most overrated movie of the year, you know. And plus it's Colleen Atwood. And Colleen Atwood was able to win Fantastic Beasts an Oscar for costume design, which is still to this day the only win the Harry Potter films have ever gotten, which is really funny to me. So I would watch out for Beetlejuice. But again, Nosferatu, that I'm wondering if that might happen too. I don't know. And again, Beetlejuice does have a confirmed nomination with makeup, because I have to assume that's getting makeup. So you could put it in some other categories. And that's why I'm really looking out for. And also, it did make the score shortlist of all things. So, like, again, watch out for Beetlejuice. Watch out for that film. Speaking of Beetlejuice, we have makeup and hairstyling. If for nothing else, The Substance is going to win this category. As long as it has that Best Picture nomination, it's winning makeup. And as far as I'm concerned, this is kind of what would help Demi Moore win lead actress. Makeup, acting, combo. All right? So I'm thinking that happens. The fact, like, let me look on Gold Derby. Yeah, on Gold Derby, both the experts and the users have Emilia Perez at number 7. No, don't do that. You're going to regret that, because guess what's in Emilia Perez? A big old dose of, prosthetic actress transformation, because in the movie, all right, we see Carla Sofia Gascon's character, before she, completely transitioned to become who she is now. And, she looks very male presenting in that sense. And that is done through makeup and prosthetics. And that makeup is so good that, if I'm not mistaken, Will Mavity literally said that so many people, swore that was a different performer altogether. Hell, even on Award Expert, Emilia Perez is at number 7. Guys! What are you doing? If you saw Emilia Perez, you saw that makeup transformation and how unbelievable it was. Holy shit. Sure, did it get the special effects makeup nomination at the Makeup Guild? It didn't, but it did get a couple of nominations. But also, the weird thing is, a couple of the films that did get nominated at the Makeup Guild, what was it? Hold on. Yeah, if we look at the Special Makeup Effects Award, well, at the Makeup Guild, well, 2 of the films aren't even shortlisted. Deadpool and Wolverine and The Deliverance. Alright, Emilia Perez can easily go into one of those slots. Easily. So it's guys, you saw Emilia Perez. You know what makeup is in the film. And you know how unbelievable of a transformation it is. It has prosthetics. It's insane. Predict Emilia Perez. What are you doing? It couldn't be more obvious that it's getting nominated. And I think if The Substance were not in here and were not already in Best Picture, Emilia Perez would be winning this category. I'm telling you guys, if you've seen the movie, you know that this is the kind of stuff that gets nominated. My God. Beetlejuice, that's going to get nominated, easy peasy. A Different Man, that's going to get nominated, easy peasy. And then there's that 5th slot, which I find very fascinating, if I'm going to be honest. Very fascinating. Because a ton of things could honestly happen. The 2 that I'm really convinced are not happening are Wicked and Maria. Maria, hairstyling, whatever. Wicked, sure, they made Cynthia Erivo green and got her prosthetic ears. Wow. Ears, guys, ears. They made prosthetic ears. It's not enough for me. It's not enough for me to predict a makeup nomination. No. The Oscars have consistently shown they prefer prosthetics over hairstyling any day. That's just what they do. So we got a few films in the running. Dune Part 2, but the weird thing is that didn't get a single nomination at the Makeup Guild. And that concerns me. Okay, sure, Waltzing with Brando, Nosferatu, and The Apprentice didn't get in, but also Nosferatu came out very, very late in the game, and The Apprentice and Waltzing with Brando are very, small budget film, or, really small budget films that probably don't have a lot of, campaign money to go around. And so maybe maybe what they're doing is, maybe they're not trying to get all the, the guilds, but they're trying to get into the Oscars. and putting all their money in that. And so I can maybe see why Waltzing with Brando and The Apprentice would miss the Makeup Guild for that. But Dune? This is Warner Brothers' like only real major shot at a Best Picture nomination. Why would they they have the campaign money. So they had to have submitted this at the Makeup Guild. I know, I'm very sure they did. But the thing, so like, it's just weird. Why would a movie like Dune miss unless it was already weak to start? This is kind of why I'm thinking Dune is weaker than we think, because it didn't even get into the Makeup Guild. So that's strange. So we do have a few other alternatives. And Nosferatu, that came out very, hell. I guess as I'm filming this, it's 1:08 a.m. So technically yesterday. But like, Nosferatu literally just released yesterday. But then again, at the same time, the Costume Guild nominated it. But then again, I'm kind of looking at the Makeup Guild, and it's like, most of these were films that were already out. So there is that. And so I am kind of wondering, okay, which one am I going for? Well, okay, well, obviously you can see what I have right here, but The Apprentice, maybe. But if that were to happen, I'd be really considering the idea that that maybe Sebastian Stan could get a lead actor nomination. I mean, then again, The Apprentice isn't doing so bad so far. I mean, Jeremy Strong and Sebastian Stan got in at the Golden Globes, so maybe. But, so that's interesting. Nosferatu, again, I want to see what it does. Like, alright, sure, it did get the Critics' Choice nomination, but again, not getting a single nomination here. But then again, it was probably because of the release date. Alright? If the BAFTAs don't nominate Nosferatu, I think it's finished. If the BAFTAs do not nominate Nosferatu for makeup, then I think it's done. And so then we have Waltzing with Brando, which... Oh, this is like the most... I saw the trailer, and it doesn't look very good at all. Okay, maybe it doesn't look awful, but it looks like way more of a comedy than I thought it was going to be. And Billy Zane is not even attempting to do a Marlon Brando voice, which is really stupid. It's like, he sounds more like this, even though Marlon Brando had a very distinct voice. Like, he's not even attempting to do that voice. Like, come on, man. But... oh my god, did they nail the look. He looks exactly like Marlon Brando. It's kind of scary. Oh my god. And some people will argue, well, why no one's even heard of this movie? Why would they nominate it? I always say this. If there's one branch of the Academy, at least of, the craft categories, like, because obviously no one knows the short films and stuff like that, but if there's one category at the Oscars where they do not really care how popular a movie is, they will go out in the trenches for a movie that no one cares about, and only honor the makeup, it's the makeup branch. Alright? Might I remind you that Golda got nominated last year? Now granted, Golda did also get into the Makeup Guild, but at the same time, I don't even think Waltzing with Brando is out yet. So maybe the Makeup Guild just wasn't able to see it in time. But God, the fact that they just transformed Billy Zane into Marlon Brando is like, that's the most wacko thing. It's like, oh, it's very well done. And yeah, no one knows about this movie, but God, the Makeup Guild will go for these unknown, no one cares about the movies. And I'm not even saying it's undeserved. Like, hey, that's very well done. So watch out for this film. I would not even be surprised if this didn't even make the BAFTA shortlist, because the BAFTAs, let's face it, they go for the more like popular films. Like they'll go for the they're a lot more like Critics' Choice in a sense with their picks. Like, sure, they'll do some things interesting, but for the most part, they, like, for example, they'll nominate Poor Things for visual effects. They'll nominate Everything Everywhere All at Once for visual effects. It's like don't count on the BAFTAs to, and also especially when it comes to animated feature, good God, it's their animated feature category is practically what was it? What was it? The Producers Guild Awards for animated feature. Like they go for such normie shit. Like they would rather shortlist Wish and the Mario movie over Robot Dreams. Like what? And also they didn't shortlist El Conde. So take that for what you will. So I'm thinking maybe even if Waltzing with Brando doesn't make the BAFTA shortlist, if it doesn't make the BAFTA shortlist, I would still be comfortable in predicting this for the nomination. Although if it did get the shortlist at BAFTA, then I'm absolutely convinced this is happening. I would absolutely be convinced this is happening. Right now, I'm a soft convince, because I still need to see how Nosferatu does. If it gets the BAFTA nomination, then we can talk. But right now, I will go with Brando for now, because this is the pick that I'm just like, of all movies, why would they shortlist this if they were not convinced that they could nominate it? This is just too strange for me to go it's too strange for me to just completely dismiss, and it fits the bill for what the makeup branch typically does in these categories. All right. Then let's get on to visual effects. A lot has changed since my last prediction, but luckily on the Award Expert app, I have been able to, I was constantly changing up my predictions, and ultimately I got 9 out of 10 on the visual effects shortlist. I got 9 out of 10. The only thing I got wrong was Civil War, because I thought Furiosa was getting in, but I did end up putting in Alien Romulus. I did end up putting in a lot, even Better Man. I always have Better Man in because it's a December release, but still, I put in Alien Romulus. I put in Wicked. I wasn't really, I think I also had Wicked somewhere, but still. Now, we've gotten a little bit of a more clear picture. The top 3 are still safe. Dune, Planet of the Apes, Gladiator 2. I've now seen these, I've seen one. The only films I haven't seen are Mufasa and Better Man. Those are the only films I haven't seen yet. So let's talk about these. All right. Let me start. Okay. Where do I want to start writing? Maybe I'll start from the bottom down. From the bottom up. Okay. Wicked. Actually, no, maybe I'll start with, I'll start with Alien Romulus. Alien Romulus. When I finally saw this film, I was like, I need to be more, this might actually get in for visual effects. This might actually get in, because I thought it was just going to be like what the first film did. Not a lot of visual effects going on, because it's trying to replicate the first film. Oh no, I was dead wrong because of the third act climax. All right. Now, I don't know if this is like spoiler-ish, because I don't know. But it does involve what happens to a ship. I'm not gonna say whatever characters are involved, because this doesn't really involve any characters. Or at least not my explanation for why this is gonna get in for visual effects. All right. There's this huge ship, and it's going down towards this planet's rings. If you know planets with rings, like Saturn, it's not Saturn in this movie, it's some other planet, but still, roll with me on this. When a planet has rings, it's made up of big chunks of rock and crystals and stuff and ice and stuff of that nature. So, and then you have this huge ship that's getting ready to go down, and it's going to crash. It's going to start crashing into the rings, or in this case, the big chunks of rock and ice and crystals and stuff. Well, when it does, it is this long shot of this ship and these rings, and it's a lot slower. Obviously, it's a lot slower because it's a very large thing that's happening. But it's basically like putting a guitar on a treadmill that's made of sandpaper. So it's just slowly whittling this thing down. And when something is that large of scale and it's doing that, there's a lot of effect simulations going on. If you don't know what effect simulations are, it's basically stuff like, smoke, fire, water, that kind of stuff is done through physics simulations on CG programs. And there's so much of this going on. And not only is there a lot going on, with that. But again, because the shot is like goes on for a long time, like because usually with visual effects shots in movies, they're very quickly edited because it's easier to render out like a very fast a very fast shot that's only like maybe like less than 1 second. It's just easier to render that way. But this goes on for quite a while. If I'm not mistaken, maybe even over 10 seconds. I didn't really time it, so I don't know. But the shot goes on for a long time. And you just see all this destruction happening. And not only that, like, because of the way these a planet's rings work with the ice and the crystals and the rocks and stuff, like, and I learned this from Visual Effects Artists React, they said that must have been a rendering nightmare. Because that stuff is really hard to, like, render on a large scale. Especially with so much of that. And they theorized that maybe the film rendered that shot in, like, 15K or something, which takes a lot of time to do that. So, basically, it has some of the most difficult shots to achieve of the year. And when it does cut to another shot, it's just another long shot, except this time it's a wide shot of this destruction. And it's basically that third act, that third act climax alone could actually get the film that nomination because of how difficult of an achievement that actually is. So keep that in mind when predicting visual effects. Because the thing that the visual effects branch likes to do, they like to go for films that have an extremely difficult task and are actually able to pull it off. Like, you know, say what you will about the Lion King remake, but especially when I was reading Will Mavity's article about the visual effects bake-off, the Lion King remake was the highlight of that bake-off reel because they literally made an animated film look so freaking real. Like, that's why it caught so much attention, and it was like the big highlight of the night. Because that's just an extremely difficult thing to do with visual effects. And another thing, and granted, this is not from Will Mavity's experience, or you know, him talking about the visual effects bake-off, but this is something that I kind of theorized why Free Guy could get a visual effects nomination because of the dude character. All right. Because what they did in that film was that they put Ryan Reynolds' face on a bodybuilder's body, and one would think, well, I mean, really, like, that doesn't seem like hard to do. But the fact that they did it so flawlessly, and when you actually watch, like, how they did it, it's, like, insane that they were actually able to pull it off as well as they did. And that's what the visual effects branch likes. They like it when there's an extremely difficult task for the visual effects artists, and they are able to pull it off. And that's something that this third act climax of Alien Romulus does. It's kind of nuts. And then that last slot, and honestly, almost anything could happen here. If I'm going to be completely honest, almost anything could happen. Because I'm very convinced that Alien's going to get that nomination. But then the fifth slot, who knows? All right, maybe Wicked. I want to see. This is where I really want to see where the visual effects branch. No, not the visual effects branch. The Visual Effects Society goes into this. Like, I want to see how they do this. Like, what they do with this, because, like, Wicked. A lot of people are predicting this, but I don't know. The effects in Wicked aren't really bad, but, however, how do I describe the effects in Wicked? It's mostly environment work. It's mostly just creating, like, the Land of Oz and creating these big CG sets. But but the way it's designed, that's, like, when it comes to designing all of that, that's the art director's job. That's the production designer's job. The visual effects artists just have to bring it to life. And this is exactly why I was saying Poor Things would not get a nomination for visual effects at the Oscars. Because, yeah, sure, visual effects were used to help create these big sets and stuff. But the way the film looks and then the beauty of it, like, well, that's the production designer. Like, the visual effects branch has shown that they care more about the technology and the progression of visual effects technology and the boundaries that they're pushing. And Wicked's not really doing that. It's just kind of bringing the production designer's vision to life. And granted, there are things like CG animals, but they're good, but they're not great. And even then, CG animals alone are a little bit iffy to get into visual effects. Now, granted, I am also predicting Kingdom of Planet of the Apes and Gladiator, but at the same time, with Gladiator, there are some very large, like some large effect sequences, like especially the scene with the boat and there's sharks and the water. That's pretty impressive. And Planet of the Apes, I mean, that's a staple. Like, if there's a Planet of the Apes movie coming out, it's going to get nominated for visual effects. And plus, with the Planet of the Apes movies, they still do break the boundaries in how good these animals look with each film. Wicked's not really doing that. Like the goat in Wicked and the monkeys in Wicked, they look fine, but it's not like the best ever, and so they're probably not going to be that impressed by it. And speaking of CG animals, we get Mufasa. And I've been saying I don't think Mufasa's happening because of the fact that it is kind of going backwards with the visual effects. Like, with the first film, say what you will about how emotionless and expressionless the animals were, but they looked like real animals. And, like, they looked like real animals, they moved like real animals, it's just like, they just looked real. And also, and the whole film, despite the fact that one of the criticisms from film Twitter was that, oh, it looks like a National Geographic nature documentary. That was the appeal to the visual effects people, the visual effects artists. That was the appeal. And again, you can't say that it wasn't the appeal, because again, going back to that Will Mavity article, The Lion King was the biggest highlight of that night. Or day, I don't know when the bake-off was happening. And at the Visual Effects Society, they gave The Lion King 3 wins for Outstanding Visual Effects in a Photoreal Feature, Outstanding Virtual Cinematography in a Photoreal Feature, and Outstanding Created Environment in a Photoreal Feature. Basically, because the first Lion King did look like a National Geographic nature documentary, and that it did look so photoreal, that's why it was nominated and probably could have won if it was just the visual effects branch voting for it. But with Mufasa, because they're leaning more into the criticisms of that the normies had with the first Lion King. Like, it is more animated. The animals do have more expressions. The camera is a lot more kind of going around and stuff. And it doesn't look as real as the first film. That has probably helped the people that didn't like the first Lion King, or that helped the normies. But with the visual effects people, the visual effects artists, they're probably not going to be as impressed with Mufasa, because it's like, well, you're kind of taking what was groundbreaking about the first Lion King's visual effects and taking it back. And sure, even if it means the movie itself might be more well-liked, it's still, from a visual effects point of view, it still isn't progressing anything. And so because it's taking a few steps backwards, I think it's not going to get nominated at the Oscars. I mean, maybe VES, but then again, I don't know, there's already so many competitors right now, so it might not even get VES. We'll have to see. Civil War was one that I wasn't really expecting to make the shortlist. But again, having seen the visual effects breakdown, it's not impossible. Because something I didn't even realize, the whole Washington, D.C. scene, like, Washington, D.C. in its entirety was CGI. I'm guessing because they couldn't actually film a war in Washington, D.C. Go figure. But it's so huge. That whole world is so huge and detailed, and there's still a lot going on. Like, there's still like explosions and like vehicles and a lot of stuff. There's still a lot going on with the visual effects. I don't think it's gonna get nominated, but again, like, I'm not gonna rule it out. And judging from the shortlist, it's definitely gonna win supporting visual effects at the Visual Effects Society, unless they count Gladiator as a supporting visual effects film. I don't know. They're kind of weird like that. Like, they nominated Oppenheimer last year for the top prize for visual effects driven feature. I'm like, what? Why? That's not like, that's, if you were gonna nominate, that's a supporting visual effects movie. Like, freaking, like, what was nominated last year? Oh yeah. Napoleon had way more visual effects in it than Oppenheimer, and yet they put Oppenheimer in the main visual effects category. It's like, it's weird. It's so weird. I don't know what's going on with that. So keep an eye out for Civil War, but I wouldn't bet on it right now. Twisters. This is another one where I was like, sort of like Alien, where I saw the trailers and I was like, I'm not convinced. No way. Absolutely no. But then when I finally saw the movie, I was like, oh, wait, no, maybe I should be taking this more seriously, because sure, we have seen more like destruction and stuff in movies before, but this is an example of like them cranking that up to 11. And it's like the craziest kind of just like tornado visual effects I've ever seen. Like the simulations, like for the dust and destruction, and even this one fire tornado, it's so well done. I'm like, oh my god, like maybe this could get in, and I like, oh, so that's fascinating. And then we have Better Man, which again I was like, the monkey doesn't look as good as the one from the Umbrella Academy, whatever. But then I saw the, what was it, rock DJ scene where, like, I guess not scene, but they posted a clip of, like, me and the boy, like that scene. Like, they posted that clip on YouTube, and there's kind of a lot going on there. Like, the cloth simulations on him are pretty insane. The fact that they're doing this, a lot of it in one take, is like really impressive. But also the smaller visual effects things that you wouldn't even notice. Like for one, the gumballs. When I saw that, I was like, I think those have to be CG gumballs because there's no way they would be actually able to do that because that poses so much of a health hazard. But it's also like, it looks so real. It looks so good. And it turns out, I watched behind the scenes. It's like, yep, those gumballs were CGI. I'm like, oh, what else did they do in this film? And then I saw this one visual effects breakdown that they posted. I mean, it's not a full visual effects breakdown, but it's the cast and crew talking about the visual effects. And yeah, there's a lot going on. Like, there's a scene on a boat or a yacht where they're dancing, and the yacht is just CGI. It's like, whoa. So, watch out. Watch out for that, because that might happen. So why have I settled with Deadpool and Wolverine? Why have I done that? Well, for one, there have only been 2 years where a Marvel film has completely missed getting nominated for visual effects. One was 2011, where Captain America, the first Avenger, got snubbed. And despite the fact that it was expected to, a movie called, Real Steel got nominated. Coincidentally enough, that's also from the same director of Deadpool and Wolverine. Keep that in mind. But also, there was 2015, where Avengers, Age of Ultron, and Ant-Man got snubbed for visual effects. But at the same time, that was the most competitive year for visual effects imaginable. So it's like, yeah, they didn't get in, but they probably would have gotten in like any other year. It's just that year was so packed full of amazing work. This year, it's not as packed. And as a general rule, obviously it's not a rule, but generally the Academy will nominate a Marvel movie when given the chance. And Deadpool and Wolverine's their only real option. And also, here's a little fun fact, the visual effects branch really likes it when you are a visual effects artist turned director and you are directing a visual effects film. They love that. They love that with James Cameron. They love that with the director of Godzilla -1. They love that with, I think Chris Columbus. Wait, Chris Columbus is not Chris Columbus. Wait, is it Chris Columbus? No, not Chris Columbus. It's Joe Johnston. Joe Johnston is a visual effects artist turned director. And there's a couple of films here that are directed by visual effects artists turned directors. You have Better Man, funny enough, Michael Gracie is a visual effects artist turned director. And so that has a good narrative. But also, Sean Levy, the director of Deadpool and Wolverine, is also a visual effects artist turned director. And the funny thing is, his movies typically get in quite a bit. Like, Night at the Museum was shortlisted for visual effects, Real Steel got in, and Free Guy got in. So the visual effects branch clearly likes this guy. Hell, Free Guy got in when it didn't get any Visual Effects Society nominations. And also, this is another thing that I kind of noticed. Ever since they introduced the sound shortlist at the Oscars, if there's a Marvel movie that's in the sound shortlist, it typically gets nominated for visual effects. Like, what was it? Spider-Man No Way Home got in the sound shortlist. And it got the Oscar nomination for visual effects. And then there was Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, showed up on the sound shortlist, and then got the Oscar nomination for visual effects. Again, I don't know how strong that stat is, but the fact of the matter is, the Oscars will typically nominate Marvel movies. They like Sean Levy as a director. Like, they love when visual effects artists you know, direct movies, and it also made the sound shortlist, meaning it's somewhat strong in the Academy. And I wouldn't, if this were the lineup, I would not hate it. All right, I would not hate it. I do want to see Better Man and Mufasa and see what my opinion is, but it's like, to see how I would go. But right now, like, I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate it if Deadpool got in, because it is the, like, probably one of the least visual effects heavy Marvel movies to date. Like, but like, there are some things that are a little bit impressive. Like, for example, there's this Cassandra Nova character, and she can like put her fingers inside of people's skulls to like read their minds and stuff. And they do some pretty impressive stuff with that. Like, there's this one scene where she does this with some dude, and like her fingers are like going under his eye and through his skin. That's really well done. And apparently the dude's face was just entirely CG. Like, it's not like they just added some CG augmentation to his face. No, like, his head was just completely replaced with CG, which is really, really impressive. And I've never really seen that before, so maybe they'll just do that. Maybe they could do that. And they're like, again, it is weird. I'm not completely confident in this, but I'll do it right now. I'll say it's Deadpool and Wolverine. Because again, it's showing some strength in the shortlists, and I guess technically right now, Better Man, only showed up for visual effects because it did get the song shortlist, but then was disqualified, so I guess it's not so strong anymore. So I don't know. I am kind of torn between Deadpool, Better Man, and Twisters right now. Although but then again, maybe anything here could get shortlisted. No, could get into the top 5. So I don't know. I am very confident in this top 4, especially Alien Romulus. But right now, I'll probably say Deadpool and Wolverine is getting in. Anyways, sound. All right. 4 of these I think are very easy. Dune, Emilia Perez, Wicked, A Complete Unknown. What's winning? I'm just going to assume it's Dune, and maybe it's like Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. It wins visual effects and sound alone. All right. Music, movie, and Best Picture. Music, movie, and Best Picture. Music, movie, and Best Picture. All right, there we go. Then that 5th slot. And it's really interesting. Because while I could potentially predict Blitz, the problem is, here's the problem. Then again, it did get shortlisted for song and score. Wait, what was my point here? I guess my point here is that, I think sound is its most likely nomination, but I don't want to predict it for a lone sound nomination. Like, movies don't really only get nominated for sound. If they get nominated for sound, there's usually like another nomination coming its way. And so that's interesting. Like, what do we have here? Well, the only 3 films I have. Okay, I could do The Wild Robot. But I can't do The Wild Robot because the Oscars hate animated movies these days. And seeing as how The Wild Robot is nowhere near as strong as something like even Soul, it's like, no, that's not happening. No. I'm kind of torn. And Joker, I mean, admittedly, I was shocked that it made the sound shortlist because I thought that movie was dead. And it still might be. It still just might be dead here. Because, like, it didn't get any other shortlist. So it's like, So I am kind of torn between 3 films: Gladiator, Alien Romulus, and Deadpool and Wolverine. Because those are the only films I have getting nominations that are not sound. I'm going with Gladiator for now because it seems like it already has a big package coming its way. Visual effects, costumes, production design, Denzel Washington. You might as well put sound in there. So it's like, all right, it's literally Black Panther Wakanda Forever. With like a movie that's not in Best Picture getting that amount of nominations. So yeah. But although Alien Romulus could show up, the creator managed to show up, and that only got in. Like, we thought that was only going to be in for visual effects, but because it did have that visual effects nomination locked in, it got nominated for sound. That's interesting. Deadpool and Wolverine, I'm not really as convinced on Deadpool and Wolverine. I am predicting it for visual effects, but they don't really nominate Marvel movies for sound unless you're Black Panther or the first Iron Man. So really, I think it might be between Gladiator and Alien Romulus. Because, like, Alien Romulus did have some very good sound design. But right now, Gladiator might be the safer pick right now. But, oh, watch out. Let's say if Alien Romulus got into the Cinema Audio Society, I'd be like, oh, boy, like, which is the Sound Mixers Guild. If it got into there, I'd be like, oh, it might happen. Because, again, visual effects, sound, bang, bang, boom. Wow. So, yeah, I'm kind of going with Gladiator for now, but I would watch out for Alien Romulus. I would definitely watch out for that. And Blitz, unless it somehow gets nominations for, like, production, unless it looks like it could get a production design nomination and maybe a song or score nomination, and like maybe it could get sound, but I'm not willing to do that just yet. Not yet. Original score. This is where I find things are fascinating. Because normally I would not have the list this short, but only 5 Best Picture films that I'm predicting are in the shortlist. Only 5 Best Picture films are in the shortlist. And the thing I've been kind of saying over the past year is that the past couple of years, the Oscars have really prioritized Best Picture nominated films above anything else. Like, they'll nominate American Fiction over Spider-Verse, which doesn't really make any sense to me, but hey, they did it. They nominated Everything Everywhere All at Once over Pinocchio. So clearly they have a bias towards, like, at least nowadays, they go for Best Picture nominated films or John Williams. So it's like that. So Emilia Perez, because it's an original-ish musical, or at least the musical element of the film is original, I'm going to predict it for the win. I'll watch out for Brutalist and Conclave, but I want to see what happens. And I'm going with Sing Sing because, again, my logic earlier, why did it make the score shortlist, and yet Nickel Boys and The Substance didn't? And again, the category recently has shown that they do prefer Best Picture nominated films. So it's like, this is in the shortlist for a reason, isn't it? This is in the shortlist for a reason. And so I'm kind of, and this is exactly why I'm thinking Sing Sing is going to rebound at the Oscars. Because, like, if it was truly that weak, like at least with Academy voters, why did it get in for a couple of shortlists when potentially stronger contenders didn't? That does not make sense. And so I don't think Wicked's gonna get that 5th slot because it's still, like, most of the music is, like, from the Broadway musical. And if I'm not mistaken, Wicked did not even get in for Critics' Choice. Am I wrong? Let me look it up. Wicked missed score at Critics' Choice. And Barbie did get score last year. Again, Wicked is Barbie light. I don't think Wicked's getting into score because of the fact that the music is not really that original, and the music branch is absolutely going to view that. I mean, if they were so if they were so keen on at disqualifying Dune Part 2 out of score because of the unoriginality of the score, then why in the world would they nominate Wicked? They're not going to do that. So I am kind of forced to pick a film that is not in Best Picture in the top 5. And I could do The Wild Robot. It's gotten Golden Globe and Critics' Choice, but Pinocchio and Spider-Verse have shown the Oscars don't like animated movies anymore. So there. Blitz, if they want to nominate Hans Zimmer for something, they could do it for Blitz. Although then again, if Blitz got in for score, oh my god, then it could probably get a few other categories too. Because the movie is potentially craft heavy, and yet it's not showing up so far. But if it got score, I'd be like, oh, that's why I'm really wondering what its BAFTA turnout is like. I want to know what that BAFTA turnout is like. The Room Next Door. Maybe. The Oscars do like Alberto Iglesias, but the film doesn't really seem to be doing that well. Even the Globes only nominated Tilda Swinton for lead actress drama. So the film might be weak overall. And so I'm going with challengers. Because it could very well just get this nomination. It might get song too. I want to see what happens with there. But I think, and plus the score is very popular. And if I'm not mistaken, I think challengers is winning the most score. Yeah. Challengers has 9 wins with the critic circles, and The Brutalist has 8. Dune has 2 wins, it's ineligible. Wild Robot has 3, but we know they hate animated movies, so that's not happening. So, yeah, I'm not going to predict challengers for the win. Like, no. Like, it's not in Best Picture. That's not no way. That is not happening. And sure, Soul did that, but that was a little bit ago. I'm not willing to go there. And plus, there weren't really a lot of, like, Best Picture contending score contenders. Still, I'm going to go with challengers. The score is very well known. It is very unique amongst the score category. And it is winning a lot. And I don't think it's going to win the Oscar, but I think it is probably going to get nominated here. Especially with the Best Picture contenders being cut down quite literally in half. So, yeah, I do think Sing Sing is going to get this nomination. I'm really counting on that. Then we get to Original Song. All right. The list was 15, but Forbidden Road from Better Man has been disqualified which is weird. Like, why did they disqualify after the shortlists? That's really weird. It's like, you didn't vet this film beforehand? Come on. Regardless. Obviously, Me, Camino, El Mal, and The Journey are in, all right? Because these two are in a Best Picture nominated musical, so yeah. And 6888, there are 3 truths in life, okay? Death, taxes, and Diane Warren, all right? All right, let's move on. Compressed Repressed from challengers, that might happen. But let's talk about that 4th slot. Like a Bird. Because there is usually a Best Picture nominated film that surprises in song. That can happen. You know, last year Wazaje from Killers of the Flower Moon surprised in song. And the year before that, This Is a Life from Everything Everywhere All at Once surprised. Because usually it seems like when there's a film that's like on the rise, or maybe not even on the rise, but when there's a Best Picture nominated film that has a song in it, it's like, yeah, they'll probably go for that. And Like a Bird is a very, very fitting song for the end of Sing Sing. So I think that, again, I think that can get in. And again, I feel like there is some strength. Because if Like a Bird, like, could get in the shortlist over the Miley Cyrus, Pamela Anderson movie song, like, I feel like there's some strength there. Like, it's not like the Miley Cyrus song wasn't eligible. It just didn't get shortlisted. They just wanted to shortlist Like a Bird. Why would they do, like, I feel like there's something happening here. I feel like there's just something happening with this film. And we may actually see it get nominated. And so yeah, Compressed Repressed from challengers. It would be weird for me to predict it for score alone, so I'm gonna go with song as well. Sick in the Head from Kneecap, maybe that could happen. I mean, like, that would be a very, like, random nomination, but at the same time, like, you could also see how it, like, really means something culturally to the singers, and so that could probably get in. Harper and Will Go West, I mean, I feel like this is the one that a lot of people are going to try to predict is happening, and it still could, but it might not. I think, because, again, I just have a feeling Will and Harper is going to really make people sad by the time Oscar nominations are out, because it's probably not going to get a single nomination. Now, again, you can get nominated for song without a documentary nomination, but I don't know. I feel like there might be too much competition. Piece by Piece, I don't think it's in anymore. I mean, good God, I don't even think the Critics' Choice Awards nominated it, did they? Yeah, no, they didn't nominate it. The Golden Globes didn't nominate it. It's not a Diane Warren song. It's not a Best Picture nominated song. So I feel like it's kind of dead right now. Kiss the Sky from Wild Robot, sure. That got Globe and Critics' Choice. I'm not betting on that, though. No, animated film. They hate animated. The Oscars hate animated films. No, that's not happening. No. Beyond from Moana 2. No, I don't think that's happening. No. Winter Coat. Maybe, but again, I feel like, again, that would have to show that maybe Blitz might be stronger than we think. I mean, it did get 3 shortlists at the Oscars, so I do want to look out for that, maybe. Tell Me It's You from Mufasa, Never Too Late, Out of Oklahoma. They didn't even choose the better Oklahoma, the better Twisters song. They literally just went for like the one that no one remembers. I mean, seriously, Ain't No Love from Oklahoma. I don't even like country music, and that song was great. Anyways, animated feature. If there's any category that's so locked up and it's like, oh, finished, we don't even need to talk about it anymore, it's animated feature. Wild Robot, Flow, Wallace and Gromit, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail. I don't even think Inside Out 2 is I don't even think it's number 2. It might not even be number 3. Because Flow and Wild Robot, they have been contending, like, they've been going back and forth with the critics groups for that animated feature win. I think Wild Robot will prevail at the end, but I'm really curious to see if the Globes go for Flow. Because if the Globes go for Flow, then that means it's pretty good for its BAFTA chances. And then, oh my god, maybe Flow. But right now, I'll go with the safer pick with the Wild Robot. Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the White Rabbit. I mean, this might win BAFTA. I mean, it is like Aardman's most acclaimed film since Curse of the Were-Rabbit, so like the BAFTAs might want to give it that. And so if that's the case, Inside Out 2 literally might be number 4. That's really funny. Memoir of a Snail. Like, these things have been showing up everywhere in the critics groups. Like, everywhere. And the only one, the one that sometimes misses is, like, Wallace and Gromit, but that's because, like, it hadn't even come out yet. So, yeah. If there was ever a number 6, any number 6, maybe Chicken for Linda. Because Chicken for Linda did get the Independent Annie nomination, and not only that, I think it got nominated for, like, directing at the Annies, so, and look back, I don't know, maybe, but, I don't know about maybe, but it's like, that's still, like, very deep down. Transformers 1 isn't even happening. Like, holy shit, like, the fucking Annies, the Annies didn't go for Transformers 1. They said yes to Kung Fu Panda 4. They said yes to That Christmas. 2 movies that didn't even really get that great reviews. And yet the only category they nominate Transformers 1 in is Best Voice Acting for Brian Tyree Henry. And the BAFTAs aren't going to do it. So really, the best case scenario is that Transformers 1 gets the PGA nomination for animated film, which is basically like best normie animated film of the year, because we don't want to go for like foreign films or independent animated films. No, we'll nominate any fucking Minions film, Despicable Me, Mario. Fuck yeah, dude. Let's go for some mid shit. Let's go. But yeah, like Transformers 1, I'm not saying Transformers 1's mid. I haven't seen it, although I'm trying to see it, but I've just not squeezed enough time to see it. It does look very good. So I'm not saying it's mid, but the fact of the matter is, the PGA would rather nominate like the most mid dumb stuff of the year, like Mario, over like Nimona. Nimona isn't even like is that even like an independent animated film? Like, I mean, clearly not, because the Annies nominated it for the main category. So it's like they just like the PGA is just very normie when it comes to animated movies. All right, they're very. I don't even count them as like a real precursor anymore, because like, of course, like especially in hindsight, it's like, because people were like, oh well, you know, Spider-Verse could still win because no film has won the Annie, Critics' Choice, and PGA without winning the Oscar. It's like, and I should have figured that, well, no shit, it wasn't gonna win PGA. The PGA just likes American movies. And granted, I actually do like Spider-Verse more than Boy and the Heron, so I'm not really complaining over that win. But in terms of using it as a stat, like using it as an actual precursor, I should have known that was like really dumb logic, because of course there was no world where they would choose The Boy and the Heron. There's a reason why The Boy and the Heron was the only, like the first and only foreign film to be nominated at PGA for animated feature. Of course that, so in what world was it going to win? Anyway, animated feature's locked up. Moving on. International feature, alright? I think these 4 are looking pretty good. Emilia Perez, Seed of the Sacred Fig, I'm Still Here, Girl with the Needle. Like, All We Imagine Is Light is not submitted, and even though it's winning the most critic circles, The fact that All We Imagine Is Light was not submitted by India just shows that that their committee is not good at submitting movies for the Oscars. So, India, you might want to fire your committee because they're not nominating movies that probably would have gotten nominated and maybe would have won still. So yeah, like between this and RRR, it's like, you keep screwing up there. What are you doing? And with Girl on the Needle, I am also predicting a cinematography nomination, so that goes well with it. And I'm still here. It's like, I think it's safely in. Fernanda Torres could still maybe get in. I'm looking out for her. And so it comes to that last slot. I don't think Kneecap's going to do it. Well, actually, if I'm not mistaken, has Kneecap even gotten nominated anywhere? I'm looking here. Okay, Kneecap, it didn't make the Globes, but it did make the Critics' Choice Awards. And I'm not really convinced Kneecap's going to get the BAFTA because of how much they like to shit on the British. Like, they're always, like, saying, you know, like fuck the British, fuck English, and all stuff, and that stuff. And it's like, and if there's one thing, because if there's one thing you gotta know about the BAFTAs are petty. All right, they don't like it when you say bad things about that country. I mean, look at Spencer. That was a little bit critical of the British royalty, and that got snubbed everywhere. RRR. Well, the British military is literally their enemy in the film, so of course they weren't going to nominate that. So it's like the BAFTAs are very, very, very petty when it comes to movies that criticize them. They get their fifis hurt a bit. So, Kneecap, I'm not really expecting to get nominated at BAFTA, because, again, they really don't like the British in that movie. And so, I'm going with Flow, because it's already, at least, like, it could challenge Wild Robot for the win, and if it's that strong, I think it does get nominated. And plus, it's a movie that's just impossible not to love. Universal Language, Vermilio, maybe. We'll have to see. And here comes the final category, and you're probably going to raise one eyebrow, or both, or both eyebrows go down because you're angry, but hear me out. I think No Other Land is getting snubbed. Hear me out. Alright. Okay, well, for one, this is not some personal vendetta. I'm actually very interested in seeing this movie. But if there's something I tweeted earlier this year, and that makes me scared for this movie. The frontrunner almost always gets snubbed out of Best Documentary. Whenever there's a frontrunner, even if it's not some, like some celebrity documentary, even if it's something like Hoop Dreams or what was that movie called? What was that? Beyond Utopia, or even like for a while people thought The Rescue was the frontrunner. Those movies got snubbed. They got snubbed, and like they were considered frontrunners at a certain point, even up to the end in some cases. So that's not great for No Other Land, considering it is the frontrunner on Gold Derby. But also, and this is just the reality of the situation. I'm not saying, I'm not saying I agree with this position that Hollywood has. I don't really, but let's face it, Hollywood fucking hates Palestine. They hate, look at Jonathan Glazer's speech last year. Like, half of Hollywood, blasted him for that. And, and that open letter was, signed by, so many, Oscar-nominated people, big, powerful people in the film industry. You think they are gonna have the judgment to predict that, this No Other Land film for, they're gonna nominate that for Best Documentary Feature? When we clearly know Hollywood's stance on this? Absolutely, okay, maybe not absolutely not, because maybe it could happen, because maybe there is maybe a chance the documentary branch does not feel the same way. But this movie has two things going against it. It's a frontrunner, and it's covering a topic that Hollywood is clearly not in favor of. So why would I don't think it's safe. I don't think it's a safe frontrunner at all. And even if it were to get nominated, I still don't think it would win because, again, of Hollywood's stance on the Middle East right now. I just don't think it's happening. Like, that's my thing on this. I don't like that reality. I don't like it. But I'm just saying, I feel like this is just kind of where things are right now. And so we have daughters. This might be considered less controversial, a little bit more universal, and they'll probably go for something like daughters. Then you have sugarcane. Porcelain War, I was thinking maybe could be that alternative to No Other Land, but then I saw the reviews, and it's like, people don't love this movie. It's overall, like, generally people like enough to where it's like the 90s on Rotten Tomatoes, but when you look at the average score, it's like around 7.0 when you look at all the critics. And so it's not looking great. It's not great. So it's probably not strong enough to win as an alternative to No Other Land. And it would be very it would be very interesting that it would be the third Ukraine war documentary to win this category. I mean, granted, I don't think that's going against. In fact, I was kind of thinking maybe that would be why it would win, but no, it's the reviews aren't really that strong enough. Whereas Daughters, it definitely does have that strong critical support behind it. So maybe that. And Dahomey, soundtrack to a coup d'etat, I'm kind of seeing what's going on the buzz right now, but again, and also with Will and Harper, celebrity documentary, I don't see it. I don't think that's getting nominated. But yeah, I'm just saying with No Other Land, don't get attached, because that movie could slip. It could slip. Again, I don't like it, or I don't like the fact that could happen. But there's just a couple of big things going against that I'm just I'm scared. I'm scared for this movie. And I'm not going to try to predict the short films right now. And even then, I think, honestly, I might not predict them at least in video form in my final Oscars predictions. Maybe you tell me if I should, but if I'm going to be honest, I'm probably just going to do what Oscar Expert does, because I know nothing about these categories. So, yeah, guys. And so, that will do it for my below-the-line Oscar predictions for December. And now, I'm going to pass the question off to you. What are your below-the-line Oscar predictions for December? And folks, this is my final Oscar predictions video until my final Oscar predictions video. Whenever I do, okay, how do I explain this? My final Oscar nomination predictions. Those are going to be my final predictions before Oscar nomination morning. Although maybe I could also do like what I did last year, like a live stream, the day before the Oscar nominations. So we could just go on live chat and talk about what we think is getting nominated and have a lot of fun there. I'm gonna soon post my January schedule, because that's gonna come up. But yeah, guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and be sure you hit that subscribe button, because if you don't, Kiss the Sky will win Best Original Song.